going to put my name back on that deed by Friday, or I take the kids and you'll be lucky to see them on holidays." My husband said it across the kitchen island of the house I bought, in the voice he used to read off the grocery list. Calm, reasonable, the voice of a man who had practiced it in the car. He was leaning on the marble I'd picked out myself, swirling the last of a beer he hadn't bought, in a glass from a set his mother gave us at a wedding I was still paying for 3 years later. I should tell you that I hadn't slept in his bed in 11 months. I should tell you that the only reason he was standing in my kitchen at all was that the court order said he got the kids every other weekend, and this was a Thursday handoff that had gone long because I let it, because I'm soft about bedtime, and he knows it. But mostly, I should tell you the thing that mattered, the thing he didn't know I knew, which was that 2 weeks earlier I had found out exactly what he'd done with the second mortgage. The one he took out on this house in the fall of the year his consulting business was supposedly booming. The one with my signature on it that I never signed. I set down the dish towel. I didn't raise my voice. I have learned that the quietest person in the room is usually the one who's already decided how it ends. "It's late," I said. "The kids have school." "Don't deflect." He set the glass down a little too hard. "You took my name off the title when you refinanced. My lawyer says that's not how this works. It's marital property. You don't get to just—" He made a little flicking motion with his fingers, like he was brushing me off a sleeve. "Erase me." Erase. That was rich coming from him. He was the one who'd stopped showing up. He stopped showing up to our daughter's recitals first, then to dinner, then to the marriage altogether. Somewhere around the time he met the woman from his cycling group who I will not be naming because she is, frankly, not the point. He left in March. I refinanced in June, once the divorce was filed and my attorney told me I could. Once I had cleaned up the credit he'd dragged through gravel for the better part of a decade. He hadn't asked a single question about money in 11 months. Then suddenly, on a Thursday, he had a lawyer and an opinion about the deed. "We can talk about all of it through the attorneys," I said. "I'm talking about it now." He pushed off the counter and stepped toward me, and there it was, the thing he always did, the use of his size in a room. He's a big guy. He used to think it was charming. "You think because you've got the fancy job and the fancy house you get to call the shots. You forget I know people. I still talk to Greg." He let that sit. Greg at the bank. Greg held the note on this house. My husband wanted me to know he had a friend in a position to make my life difficult. The same play his kind always runs. Smile, then squeeze. I let my face go tired, not scared. Tired is more useful. Scared makes people escalate. Tired makes them think they've won. "Give me until Monday," I said. "I'll have my attorney look at the deed. If you're right, we fix it. If you're not, you let it go and we keep this civil for the kids. Okay?" Something loosened in his shoulders. He'd come in expecting a fight, and I'd handed him a Friday deadline turned into a Monday meeting, which to a man like him reads as a woman folding. He even smiled. "See, that's all I'm asking. We don't have to make this ugly." He picked his jacket up off the stool. "Tell the kids I said good night. They're already asleep, right?" A flicker of something on his face, the math of a man counting how many bedtimes he'd missed and deciding it didn't count against him. Then it was gone. Monday. He let himself out the front door of my house like it was still his, and I stood in my kitchen and listened to his truck pull out of the driveway I had repaved in October. And I did not cry, and I did not shake, and I want to be very clear about that. Because everything I did next required me to be the calmest I have ever been in my life. I texted one person, he just showed up. He knows about Greg. I think it's time. The 3 dots appeared right away. Then, on my way over. Don't agree to anything in writing. Don't sign a thing. Her name was Ruth and she had been my divorce attorney for 8 months. But she had been something closer to a second mother for almost 15 years before that, since I was 22 and waiting tables at a steakhouse where she came in every Friday and tipped like she remembered being broke. She'd watched me go to night school. She'd read the business plan for the staffing firm I built and circled the 2 clauses that would have sunk me and handed it back without making me feel stupid. She was 61 and had spent 30 years in family court, and she had a way of looking at a problem that made it smaller. She had also, as it happened, known my husband's family for a long time, which was about to matter more than he could have imagined. She got to my house at 9:40. I made coffee. We sat at the island where he'd stood 20 minutes earlier making his threats, and I told her everything in order, the way she'd taught me to. No editorializing, just the facts and the dates. When I got to the second mortgage, she set her mug down. "Say that again," she said, slowly. "In the fall, 4 years ago, there's a second mortgage on the house, $110,000. It's got my signature on it." I slid the printout across the marble. "I didn't sign it. I was in Seattle that whole week for the regional conference. I have the badge, the flight, the hotel folio, the photos. I have a keynote I gave on the 14th. He took out a loan against our house, forged my name, and used it to pour money into a business that folded 8 months later. I found the documents 2 weeks ago when I was pulling everything together for Discovery." Ruth was quiet for a moment. She is the only person I know who can be quiet in a way that fills a room. "Does he know you found it?" "No. He thinks I'm worried about the deed. He thinks the deed is the fight. And the deed is clean. The refinance was after the petition. My attorney." I caught myself and smiled. "You told me I was within my rights. He has no claim. He's bluffing about Greg." She nodded slowly, turning her mug in a slow circle the way she does when she's 3 steps ahead and waiting for you to catch up. "You could end this tonight," she said. "Forgery on a mortgage instrument is a felony. It's bank fraud. We take that printout, your travel records, and we go to the district attorney, and your husband's Monday meeting becomes the worst day of his life. I can make that call in the morning." "I know, but you don't want to." "If I do that, he gets a lawyer and goes silent, and the whole thing turns into his word against mine for 2 years. And the kids." I stopped. I pressed my palms flat on the cold stone. "I don't want him in handcuffs in front of the kids. I want it to be over. I want it on paper, signed by him, in his own words, in a way he can never take back. I want him to do it to himself." Ruth looked at me for a long time. And then something changed in her face, not quite a smile, more like recognition, the look of a teacher whose student has finally said the thing she's been waiting 2 semesters to hear. "Tell me what you're thinking," she said. So I told her. When I was done, she didn't say it was a good plan or a bad plan. She opened her laptop. "Monday won't work," she said. "Monday gives him a weekend to talk to his own lawyer. We do it tomorrow. I'll need a few hours in the morning to draft the right instrument and pull his asset picture. You get him back in this kitchen by tomorrow night. You tell him you couldn't wait. You tell him you want to make it right before the weekend, for the kids. He'll come. Men like this always come when they think they've won." "He'll come," I agreed. He came at 7 the next evening, freshly showered, smelling like the cologne I used to buy him. Because of course he read my too eager text as victory, and dressed for it. The kids were at my sister's. I had a bottle of the Cabernet he liked breathing on the counter and 2 glasses out, and I watched the assumptions stack up behind his eyes as he took it all in. The wine. The 2 glasses. My hair down. A wife coming to her senses. It is an ugly thing to make yourself look like prey on purpose. I did it anyway. "I thought about what you said," I told him, pouring. "About the kids. About not making it ugly." I handed him a glass and didn't take one for myself, and he didn't notice, because men like him never notice what you're not doing, only what you are. "You're right that I've handled all of it alone. The money, the house, the schedules. Maybe that's why it got so bad between us. Maybe I made you feel like you didn't matter." I watched the cologne and the wine and the words do their work. I have never seen a man relax so completely into a lie he wanted to be true. "That's all I've been saying," he said. "We just stopped being a team. So I want to fix the deed, put your name back on. But I have to do it the right way, for liability." I'd practiced the word. "It sounds like surrender. I run a business. If I just add a name to a deed during a divorce without documenting the reason, my accountant and the bank flag it. There are forms. There's a whole paper trail I need so it doesn't look like I'm hiding assets or doing something shady with marital property. I pulled a slim folder off the counter. Ruth drew this up. It's a marital settlement acknowledgement. It documents what each of us is bringing to the table, what we each owe, so the deed change is clean. He took the folder and didn't open it. Ruth, your lawyer's helping me get my name back on the house. Ruth is trying to keep this out of court, I said, which was true. Sit. Let me walk you through it so we don't have to do this twice. He sat at my island. I sat across from him, and I set my phone face up between us, propped against the wine bottle. I'm recording this, I said, light, like it was nothing. Single-party consent in this state, but I'd tell you regardless. It's for the file. Anytime you document a financial agreement during a divorce, you want a record of the verbal terms, so the written ones can't get challenged later. It protects both of us. None of that was a real legal requirement. It was true enough that a man with no law degree and a glass of wine in him wouldn't question it. He didn't even glance at the phone. He was still looking at me like I was a problem that had solved itself. I started with the easy things. The cars, the furniture, the retirement accounts. I had him state, for the record, what he was bringing into the agreement, which was nothing, and what he was claiming, which was half. I had him agree, on tape, that he had not contributed to the mortgage in over a year. I kept my voice warm and bureaucratic, an HR tone, the sound of someone filling out a form. Then I turned a page. Okay. We need to account for all debts secured against the property, since you're going back on the title and you'd be assuming a share of them. There's the primary mortgage, I read the figure, and there's the second mortgage from 4 years ago, the 110. I looked up at him, pleasant. I need you to state what that one was for so we can categorize it. Was it a joint marital debt or your separate business debt? It changes how we split it. If it's separate, it actually comes off my side, which helps you. I watched him do the arithmetic he thought he was doing. He saw a fork in the road where both paths led somewhere good for him. If he called it joint, I shared the burden. If he called it his, it came off my ledger and he looked generous. He did not see the third thing, the only thing that was real, which was that I needed him to say out loud, on a recording, that he was the one who took out that loan. That was for the consulting business, he said. The startup capital. He leaned back, comfortable now, a man explaining his cleverness. I took it against the house in the fall. We needed the leverage. I figured the house could carry it. You took it out, I repeated, gently, the way you confirm a phone number. The second mortgage. You initiated that 4 years ago. I handled it, he said, and there it was, the pride leaking through, the need to be seen as the one who'd done something bold. You were always so cautious about debt. I knew you'd say no, so I got it done. You should be thanking me. If that deal had hit, we'd have been set. But I'm on that loan, I said, like I was just now realizing it, like it was a small confusion to clear up. My name's on the second mortgage. It's a marital asset, he said, waving a hand, the same flick from the night before. You are on it because we were married. That's how it works. Right. I nodded. I let it land soft. I just wanted it documented that it was your decision, your business, your money. So it's clear it's separate. I made a note on the legal pad next to me, a few lines of nothing, theatre for his benefit. That's actually perfect. Thank you. That makes the split a lot cleaner. He smiled and picked his wine back up, and I have thought about that smile many times since, because it was the smile of a man who believed he was winning a chess game in a room where I had quietly removed his king before he sat down. We went through 3 more pages. I had him sign at the bottom of each, on the line Ruth had flagged, while I held my pen and pointed and kept my voice in that flat, helpful register. He signed where I told him to. He read maybe the first page and a half before he stopped pretending to read at all, because reading would have meant admitting he didn't trust me, and he needed, in that moment, to look like a man being magnanimous to his foolish soon-to-be ex-wife. On the second-to-last page, there was a paragraph he should have caught. I watched him not catch it. I even gave him the chance. This part's just the acknowledgement of the debts we discussed, I said, and he nodded and signed his name in the loose, confident scrawl of a man who has never once been made to pay for his own signature. My phone buzzed against the wine bottle. A message from Ruth. I turned it just enough to read it. Recording's good. Asset search done. The boat's in his name alone. So is the truck. Equity in both. Green light. I picked up the phone. I stopped the recording. I have to tell you something, I said. He looked up, still loose, still warm. That $110,000. I didn't sign for it. I was in Seattle that week. I have my flight, my hotel, my conference badge, and a photo of me giving a keynote on the same morning. The loan documents say I sat in a notary's office downtown. I kept my voice exactly where it had been, flat and kind. You forged my signature on a mortgage. That's not a marital debt. That's bank fraud. It's a felony. And you just confirmed, on a recording, in your own words, that you were the one who took that loan out, and that you knew I'd have said no. The wine glass stopped halfway to his mouth. What is this? It wasn't a question. His voice had dropped into something flatter and older, the voice underneath the charming one. This is a real settlement document, I said. Every line you signed is true, and it's yours. You acknowledged the second mortgage as your separate debt. You acknowledged you haven't contributed to this house in over a year. You waived a claim on the refinance. I slid the folder a few inches toward him. And the recording is just for me. I'm not taking it to the DA tonight. I want you to understand that. I could. The statute on this hasn't run. I have everything, but I'm not going to. Because of the kids, he said, and for 1 second he thought he'd found the lever again. No, that came out sharper than the rest. I made myself slow down, not because of the kids, because I don't need to. The fraud is mine to use whenever I decide to. It just sits there now, the way it sat over me for 4 years without me even knowing it, except now I'm the one holding it. You can't. I bought it, I said. He stopped. The second mortgage, the $110,000. I paid it down to almost nothing over the last 2 years without ever knowing what it was, because the auto draft came out of the joint account I kept funding while you were off, finding yourself. But the remaining balance, the part that was still active, I had Ruth contact the note holder this morning. There's a $40,000 piece of that debt that's still live, secured against this house. I'm acquiring it, which means the lien you forged my name onto, the one you thought was a problem for me, I now hold it. And it's attached to your separate property, which you just confirmed it was. Your boat, your truck. The lien follows the debt, and the debt is yours. I have replayed his face from that moment more than any other. The way the charm fell off it all at once, like a coat sliding off a chair. What was underneath was not anger, not at first. It was the look of a man recalculating a game he thought was already over. You don't show up, I said, and I was surprised by how level I stayed. For 4 years you don't show up. Not when I'm in the hospital getting my gallbladder out, and you're at a cycling event you won't move. Not at the recital, not at the parent-teacher conference where the teacher asked if everything was okay at home. You take $110,000 out of the only thing I'd ever built, you sign my name to it, and then you have the nerve to walk into my kitchen and tell me you're going to take my children unless I give you a piece of it back. My hands were flat on the marble. I noticed they weren't shaking. I would have helped you if you had ever once called me like a human being and asked. I helped you for years when you didn't deserve it. But you didn't ask. You took. You always just took. He set the wine glass down very carefully, the way you set something down when you'd rather throw it. What do you want? He said. I want what's already done, I said. You're going to make the payments on the lien I now hold. On a schedule Ruth sends you. Modest. Manageable, 3%, which is kinder than you get anywhere on this earth. You're going to keep every word of the custody agreement, because if you ever again threaten to take my kids to win a fight about money, the recording and the forgery documents go to the district attorney the same afternoon, and you can explain bank fraud to a jury. And you're going to leave my house, the one I bought, the one I refinanced, the one your name is never going back on, and you're going to do it now. This is extortion, he said. The word came out small. It's a settlement you signed of your own free will, I said, and a debt you created with your own hand. I didn't do any of this. You did. I just stopped being the only person in this family who paid for it. I stood. I picked up the folder. Underneath the lip of the island near my knee, there's a small button my security company installed when I had the system put in after he moved out, the one wired to the non-emergency line at the police precinct 2 miles away. I pressed it. They'd send a car in 10 minutes or so, just enough time for him to understand that the conversation was finished, and that the next person through my front door would not be on his side. You confessed to a felony in my kitchen tonight, I said quietly, so it was only for him. I've carried that loan for 4 years without knowing it was a knife. I'm telling you so you understand I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing it because I am done being the one who bleeds quietly so everyone else stays comfortable. He stood there a moment longer, looking for the next move, the way he always did, the angle, the charm, the friend at the bank. There wasn't one. For the first time in the 15 years I'd known him, there was no version of the room where he came out ahead, and I watched him understand it. He left through the front door of my house, and he did not slam it, which surprised me, and I stood in my kitchen and listened to his truck back down the driveway I repaved in October, and I poured the wine he'd been drinking down the sink and washed both glasses and set them in the rack. Ruth was still parked down the street. She came in when she saw his lights go. She read the signatures, checked the pages in order, slid them into her bag. "How do you feel?" she asked. I thought about it honestly. Like I finally put down something I'd been carrying so long I forgot it was heavy. She nodded once, the way she does when an answer is correct and doesn't need anything added to it. 6 weeks later, the lien transferred into my name, and Ruth filed the paperwork that attached it to his property. He set up the auto payments in January, small ones, the kind that stretch out across years. He never called to argue. He just paid, which told me everything I'd ever needed to know about what he could have done all along and chose not to. He sees the kids every other weekend, on time now, suspiciously on time, a man who has finally located a reason to behave. He brings them back with their homework done. He does not mention the house. He does not mention Greg, who, it turns out, did not actually care about any of it the way my husband wanted me to believe, because that's the other thing about men like him. The friends in high places are usually just other men who are tired of their phone calls too. My daughter asked me, a couple of months after, if Dad and I were going to be okay. We were doing dishes. She's 9 and she watches everything. We're going to be okay, I told her. All of us. I promise. And I meant it, which I hadn't been sure I could. And that was its own kind of payment, the kind that comes back to you instead of going out. My mother-in-law called me once, near the end of all of it, after she'd heard whatever version he gave her. She said she hoped I was proud of myself for tearing a family apart. I held the phone for a moment and looked out the window at the yard where my kids' bikes were dropped in the grass, where they'd left them, safe, home, fed, asleep upstairs in a house nobody could take. "I am," I said. And then I wished her good night, and I hung up, and I blocked the number, and I went upstairs to check on my children, and I slept, for the first time in a year, all the way through till morning. The thing nobody tells you about being the one who holds everything together is that people stop seeing the holding. They only see the house, the paid bills, the kids in clean clothes, and they decide you must not need anything because need is loud and you were always quiet. My husband mistook my silence for strength he was entitled to spend. For 4 years he spent it. And the reason it ended the way it did is not because I got lucky, but because of 3 things I had built long before he walked back into my kitchen. The first was a line I would not cross, even when crossing it would have felt good. I could have taken that recording to the district attorney and watched him led out in front of our daughter. A part of me wanted that. But I knew that if I let my pain pick the punishments, I'd become someone my kids would have to recover from too. So I chose the version of justice that protected them instead of the one that satisfied me. That, Joyce, is the whole reason my daughter could ask if we'd be okay and believe me when I said yes. The second was that I refused to mistake feeling powerless for being powerless. For years, I told myself I was trapped, that he held the cards, that Greg at the bank and the size of him in a room meant I had to fold. Then I sat down and actually looked at the documents, the dates, the flight records, the law. Power, it turns out, is mostly just information that nobody bothered to gather. He counted on me staying too tired and too frightened to read the fine print. The moment I read it, the room changed. The third was the simple, unglamorous willingness to stay standing one more day than the person trying to wear me down. He was betting I'd break first. People like him always are. They confuse your calm for surrender and your patience for weakness. And they never understand that the person who keeps getting up is not the one who feels no fear. It's the one who decided the fear doesn't get to make the decisions. If you take anything from what happened in my kitchen that night, let it be this. Do not let anyone convince you that being decent means being a doormat, or that being smart means being cruel, or that being strong means never being afraid. The people who took from me my whole life were not stronger than me. They were just louder, and they assumed louder would always win. Build the quiet things. Know your numbers. Keep your hands clean enough that you can look your children in the eye. And then, when the moment comes, and it will come, you won't have to shout. You'll already be holding everything that matters, and they'll be the ones who finally understand they were never holding anything at all.